Hello everyone, Capybara Fan 2000 here. After the roaring success of my previous video, and some positive feedback from my friends, I've decided to make another one. So today, I will be talking about Dark Souls with guns. This game was previously available on consoles, but has since been removed from their online stores along with the DLC. It is currently available for PC on Steam, but only for Windows, and I'm not sure how to install that. Fortunately, physical copies do still work, even downloading the latest patch automatically. I originally wanted to make a video about this game back in 2021, but never got around to it, mainly because the disorganised notes I might generously refer to as a script were rather long, so this time around, I'll be trying to cut things down as much as possible. The first thing we need to do is create a character. After legally changing our name and transitioning from male to female, we need to select a discipline. This only really affects your initial statistics and equipment, so there's no real wrong choice here. Except for this one, don't pick this one. We're then given an opportunity to adjust our appearance. The options are fairly limited here, but if you want to be an anime girl, then Code Vein is available. Anyway, it doesn't really matter what your character looks like, because you're always portrayed by default male mesh 001 in the cutscenes. After creating a character, the game begins with us escaping from prison thanks to the intervention of an important authority figure. So now we need to pick up our first ranged weapon. This is also where we see our first obelisk. Obelisks function like bonfires in Dark Souls, refilling your ammunition, healing syringes and grenades, and allow you to level up by spending bits. They're also where you change your weapon loadout. You can initially carry 3 weapons, 1 primary, 1 secondary, and 1 melee, with extra slots being unlocked later on. You can either manually aim and shoot like any other third-person shooter, or use a Souls-like lock-on system. You can shoot limbs off enemies by aiming carefully, but the lock-on system prevents you from doing that, so you'll only ever really do it accidentally. Also, enemy limbs grow back after a while, including their guns somehow. For some reason, there is no way to pause the game. In Dark Souls, this was due to the game being online, i.e. other players could invade your world at any time, but this game is single player only, so there isn't really any excuse for this. Anyway, when you die it makes this noise. The end of the prison is guarded by Carl the House Invader. In addition to firing his gun, he also has a charge attack. By the way, all enemies have weak points on their backs. If you ignored my advice about not choosing the cursed one earlier, you'll be prompted to choose one of 2 permanent disadvantages for the rest of the game. This happens after every major boss encounter, and these carry over into New Game Plus, at which point you can select the other disadvantages in order to have a complete set. There's a trophy for doing this, by the way. After a short elevator ride, we arrive at the central chamber. This room serves as a hub from which we can travel to various worlds, like in that other game. It's here that we meet Ares Bomber Guy, who tells us about this cool rock he found called the Monolith. The Monolith has all kinds of mysterious powers, such as not preventing the inventory menu from opening whilst you're supposed to be interacting with it. However, it's currently having problems because its balls have been broken, all 3 of them, so it's our job to fix that. You're supposed to go through the already open door for Arden first, but it is possible to travel to one of the other areas instead if you have enough bits. It's probably not a good idea to do that though.
It appears that the pathway between the core and your position is stable.
Arden it is then.
Welcome to the primordial realm, the only one that still remains open.
I mean, that's clearly not true, but okay. After saying hello to Breen and upgrading our sturdy club to a flimsy sturdy club, we reach the part that I like to call the annoying bit at the start of Arden. You see, most of the enemies here have guns, and the area is fairly open, so be prepared to get shot a lot from off screen. After getting past that part, we climb up a ladder, and where did you come from? Arden isn't actually very long, so we're now about halfway through. The second part of this area has an interesting gimmick. Bigger enemies who fire tennis balls at you really slowly, and smaller ones who can either do that or try to mark you with a tracker shot. Being marked like this will anger the tennis balls, causing them to home in on you for a certain amount of time. It's really cool how killing the enemy you're locked onto automatically rotates the camera 90 degrees to focus on another one. The end of the area is guarded by the Home Guard Commander. He doesn't have any ranged attacks, other than a slow and very obvious shield beam, so the only real problem you'll have here are the zombie arms on certain parts of the floor, which can prevent you from moving or shooting for a few seconds if they grab you. You absolutely will not be able to see them, because you'll be looking up in order to aim at the commander, but that's fine. Anyway, once you've sufficiently informed him of your Second Amendment rights, it's Orbin time. Now that we are at least 33.3% ballin', it's time to try Viridian again. Hello again friends, I would like to formally request a do-over. Cool bug facts. If you drop down from this ledge at the start, there's a direct path to the first obelisk with 0 enemies in the way, thereby avoiding Taco Tuesday. The area is filled with vine traps, which are just like the grabby hands in the Arden boss area, except they damage you now. There are also a few new enemy types here. The big bad Beetleborgs might seem difficult at first, but they don't have any ranged attacks and charge at you in exactly the same way that Carl did, before I fucking killed him. Snipers can deploy shields and throw anti-snowballs at you. To defeat them, you can either destroy the shield with a melee attack, or use an advanced technique I like to call walking around them. This area is much easier if you have a sniper rifle. You probably won't have one yet, unless you pick the marksman class at the start of the game, but the enemies here randomly drop them. After this comes the swamp area, which you can skip entirely by falling off this ledge right at the start, but I need to pad out the length of this video, so let's do it anyway. This section introduces another new enemy. It runs towards you and explodes, leaving a cloud of poison gas for a few seconds. You can kill them before that happens, but they don't give you any bits, despite what the wiki says, so it's easier to just let them explode and move away from the gas cloud rather than wasting ammunition on them. The last half of this section is basically just these guys and vine traps, so you know. After fighting the world's easiest optional boss, we find ourselves in the Forbidden Forest, because this is a video game and places can just have names like that. It's here that we meet Orange. Mr. Juice apparently has the worst pathfinding AI in the entire game, because he's trying to escape from this forest but keeps moving further into it.
What conspiracy are you part of?
Hey, remember Carl? Well, he's back, and he's a regular enemy now. His role as boss tier enemy has now been given to this guy, who's kind of, well... After defeating him on what was definitely my first attempt, we get a visit from Golang, who used to be a man but is now a robot, or possibly a cyborg, I'm not sure. Anyway, you interact with the orb and return to the central chamber. We're now 2/3 of the way done, so all that's left is... Welcome to Apexion, the city of 1,000 Taco Bell opportunities. Apexion is actually quite short, probably as short as Arden was. But you might find that it feels much longer because it can be a bit frustrating. There are 3 kinds of enemies here. Shield Knights, those exploding guys, blue flavour, and, my favourite, teleporting sniper bastards. The exploding man still don't drop bits and have a lot more health here, but the tactic of simply jumping away from them still works, so they're not too much of a problem. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are somewhat more challenging, but using shotgun power attacks, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but all weapons have special attacks that use up your mana bar, I probably should have mentioned that earlier, or simply circling around to hit them from behind are both viable strategies. Melee attacks also work if you put points into strength, which I forgot to do. The teleporting snipers are probably the most unfun part. They can generally kill you in 2 hits and have a horrible habit of teleporting behind you where you can't lock onto them. They're kind of annoying is what I'm saying. Just like Arden has Breen and Viridian has Orange, we meet an NPC here, Wide. For some reason, his dialogue is rather quiet.
Also hear the madness. Floats on the air, venting.
Again, Apexion isn't very long, but you might get a bit lost because everywhere looks the same. Anyway, you'll know that you're near the end once you reach this bit, so all that's left is to defeat the boss, who's ironically much easier to kill than to reach in the first place. After not talking to these ladies, I get nervous when talking to girls, okay, we make our way back to the central chamber for what I'm sure is the final time. After all, we have all 3 balls now, right? Surely that's the end of the game then. Actually no, this is just the halfway point. That's cool and all, but this video is already longer than I originally expected, so